Welcome to the Saturday Night Live Afterparty. This week we'll be discussing Season 47, Episode 19 of SNL with host Benedict Cumberbatch and musical guest Arcade Fire. I'm John Murray, and I'm joined this week by longtime professional SNL blowhard Steve Finn, as well as New York-based funny fella Pat Riley. You can find Pat on the socials at not Pat Riley. If you'd like to connect with us, you can do so at snlpodcast.com. All right, enjoy. Welcome back, Steve.
It's always a pleasure, John. How are you?
Very good, and welcome back, Pat. You are quickly becoming a cast regular, so I'm not going to belabor the point. You're just one of the crew tonight, so glad to have you up. Glad that I can actually host an episode with you on it, because even though I've been enjoying watching you, I haven't actually been able to interact with you on a cast, so it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. This is my fourth time. Thank you for having me back. And this is the first time we've met, so this is gonna be an interesting one. I wonder how our dynamic works. I wonder if we have a good back and forth.
No,
there's only one way to find out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a total train wreck, but we'll slog through it. So it's been kind of a fraught week. Big social issues and political controversies afoot. So I figured, in light of the social issues of concern, that it would be best to stack our panel with, three dudes. So it's going to be a fun episode to break down. I'm not entirely sure what sort of perspective we're going to be able to bring to the conversation, but whatever it turns out to be, I'm just excited to be able to go down that path with you guys.
Yeah.
But before we jump in, why don't we just do a full spoiler review for Doctor Strange? How's that sound?
Great.
Okay, let's start with the final scene. We'll break that down shot by shot.
Yeah.
And then we'll just work our way backwards.
So what happens in Doctor
Strange?
Everyone's seen it. If you haven't seen it by now, you didn't want to see it. So Doctor Strange shows up and he's all like,
spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
who's not Puerto Rican in this, and it really pissed me off.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Because whites don't know the difference.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Which I feel is bullshit.
Excellent. Well, all right. That was a hot take. Now that we've thoroughly pissed off our full audience, why don't we just barrel forward? Before we jump into the show, I want to give a plug to the SNL Hall of Fame podcast, because about half an hour before we logged on, I got a tweet saying that the episode that Catherine, Steve, and I did with Jamie Dew of the SNL Hall of Fame podcast just dropped. And it was a lot of fun to record. We basically ran the gamut of SNL luminaries that we think deserve to be inducted into the SNL Hall of Fame. It was fun to record, and I can't wait to listen to it myself, but that has dropped. So if anyone just can't get enough of our SNL hot takes on our show, head over to SNL Hall of Fame, check that out. And also, everyone can participate in the voting for the inductees for this year's Hall of Fame, but that has to happen before May 20th. So if anyone wants to participate in what Jamie Dew's doing over there at the SNL Hall of Fame, definitely go check out the show, give ours a listen, and then go vote. But enough promoting other rival SNL podcasts. Why don't we get into ours? You guys ready?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the cold open, SNL travels back to 13th century England to better understand the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. And in a rare turn, the week's host leads the sketch. So, Steve, why don't you kick us off? What'd you think of the cold open? Keep it or abort it?
Definitely carry
getting
this.
A little spicy. That's the only off-color joke I'm going to drop on this particular topitic. Carry on.
I would do the full 9 for this one for sure. This one gets carried to term.
Do your 9 and pop it.
It was pretty much invited. This cold open, and I'm glad they went there. If you're going to be so brazen to cite a 13th century law from like a totally other country, of course we're going to talk about how ridiculous that is. And SNL is just like, well, thank you, because you just made it very easy to pitch the obvious idea of what our cold open should be. It's very easy to go back in time and illustrate in a very comedic way how little we knew, what we were wrong about. And just like that, we turned their argument for it into an argument against it. So I think it was the best kind of commentary to make on it. And it was hilarious to watch.
Patrick, what do you think?
Man, I was not looking forward to the cold open when the news came out this week. I was like, I can't do another SNL sketch where they're just sitting doing, oh, we're the Supreme Court and we're all in a room and we're just yelling out what the political things of the week were. And I'm like, I can't. This was so refreshing. I really enjoyed it. You know what? Not even 9 months. I would carry it for 20 years and then just leave. That is what I will do. It was so cool to see Benedict in the sketch because it's always so rare when when you're the host is in the opening sketch, and I feel like that is indicative of how much SNL you can see the writers enjoy writing for Benedict Cumberbatch, because not only was he in the sketch, he was the focal point of the sketch. It wasn't that he was like a character that came in or a character who sat in the chair. He was like leading the sketch. And I think he did a great job. I think it made some wonderful, wonderful points without kind of, because the seriousness of the topic is, especially like this week, I feel like a lot of us have been feeling like the world is on fire. And for this to kind of take a step back and realizing how fucking stupid these people are, to be like, oh, well, this is obviously what the benchmark should be, I thought was a pretty ingenious way to talk about the topic without kind of insulting anybody or kind of making it a little rough to watch.
All right. Well, I think you guys covered a lot of ground on that. I don't really have a whole lot to add. It always catches my eye when the host is in the cold open because it shows confidence. It shows that not only is the host feeling like, hey, you know what, I can do a bit more on my second outing. Like I know how the show works now, so put me in, coach. So it always gives me a nice feeling about the trajectory of the show when you see that the host is game and when you see that the show is also confident, because he still needs to do a quick change and then, compose himself for the monologue and kind of switch emotional gears. And if you're already all adrenaline up and panting from running from your last sketch, it doesn't always help your monologue. So it's always more exciting when you see someone be willing to kind of walk that tightrope a little bit. So that was fun. And that's really all I have to say about it. You guys want to talk about the monologue?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So for the monologue, little Benedict loves his Pookie. Okay, Pat, what'd you make of this?
A great monologue. Again, I feel like it's Benedict Cumberbatch. This is only his second time hosting, and you could have fooled me and told me this was his five-timer club thing, because he's so comfortable on stage. He's so sure of where the comedic beats are going. And honestly, one of my favorite go-to jokes for anyone is, my mother calls me my full name.
Right. The formality.
The formality of Benedict Cumberbatch. Actually, my favorite joke of the monologue was when he's like, happy birthday to my wife. This is for her. It's me, your husband, little Benedict. That's the 1-2 punch. You got me. Yep. That really but I mean, he was, you know what? I really, the monologue for me is always, does the host feel comfortable? And if the host feels comfortable, that's always a good sign for the night. And I felt like Benedict Cumberbatch was so late. He just was like, everyone, we're having fun tonight. Let's lay back and enjoy. And I was just, I was good. I had a good feeling going into the night.
Yep. Yeah. What do you think, Steve?
This was a great, very well written monologue, well performed as well. Benedict really knocked it out of the park. And I agree with Patrick. One of my favorite jokes was him being little Benedict to both his mother and his wife. I thought he was, really great. And I really enjoyed his use of the cameras, the speaking to one camera and then the next. I felt like there was a really good narrative progression there. A lot of great self-deprecating stuff. His closed mouth smile. Something you never really think about, but what he's talking about when he brings it up. Fun stuff like that made it really great to watch.
Again, I think you guys covered it all. He sold the material. I think if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I think the material was a little easy. I feel like on the Mother's Day show, they know exactly what they're trying to do with the monologue. And so I don't think that this was as laugh heavy as it could have been if they were freed to just do whatever they were inspired to do for the monologue. But as a Mother's Day monologue, I think that he delivered it as well as anyone could. And you're right. He seemed effortless. He did not trip over his words. He was very poised. He hit all his marks when they want to drop into dramatic camera B mode. All of that worked really, really well. So yeah, it wasn't exceptional, but it was very competent. And that, I think that's all I really needed to see. Let's roll into our first live sketch of the evening. On Mother's Day, a matriarch is given a number of increasingly bizarre novelty signs. Steve, start us off here. What'd you think? This is our second outing of this. We've seen this before.
Second outing? Yeah. And it definitely works with a theme introduced into it to kind of shape it around. Mm-hmm. I really liked the mother-centric content on these signs. So definitely a good way to bring it back, make it a little bit different. We're still enjoying all the things we enjoyed about it, but now, it doesn't feel like a retread because we brought it out for another reason. And 80 is just so great in this. Great opening joke, just that little, you're our mom. And it's like, I'm your wife. Just little jokes like that, like they're not necessary, but it's an extra laugh in there. Yeah. I always appreciate that. But once again, I'm impressed by how they handled this extra challenge because God, it seems so simple, but like when you're in the moment and you're like, this is live, we have one shot at it. They got to like sort through all these packages. They have to know which one to pick up and hand over. Mm-hmm. Like it's just as, it's one thing to have like your cue cards.
Yeah.
And know your lines off that. It makes me wonder if they're writing on the cue cards, pick up the orange one now, just as a reminder. Because
I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. They have them ordered in the bag. And so the cast knows always just draw the one that's on top whenever it goes back to them. But yeah, still there's a lot of moving pieces and you hand the wrong side. Yeah. The whole sketch is going to derail because the cue cards are what the cue cards are. So
yeah. Well, if they're all in a bag, or like what if something settles and they get restructured a little bit?
Yeah. No, there's definitely a chance for something to go off the rails with these kind of things where they're properly.
Yeah. Like I remember thinking like when they got to the wine bit, and she's like, why don't you have something about, drinking wine? And he's like, 1 second. And you see him kind of like get confused for a second. I was like, what bag do I pick up? He picks up the right one, but I thought, imagine if he didn't pick up the right one and then she's reading something that had nothing to do with wine after being set up like that. Like live television, baby. So my props to them for taking on that added challenge.
Yeah, very good. You got anything to add, Pat?
Yeah, I really love the sign answering her when she goes, oh, it's not that bad. No, it is that bad. That was such a funny little touch. These are, I mean, like, I don't think there was a big evolution from the last time we saw the sketch, but I feel like this is the kind of sketch where that doesn't matter because I think what Steve says, if you theme it, it works. If it is this is what we're watching is a Christmas dinner or like a birthday or Mother's Day, something like that, where it's like, oh, it really is a lot of fun. 80's reaction is just so funny. She's so funny, and it's kind of her wheelhouse of just and it will never not make me laugh. My favorite sign, which is I would love to buy if I could just buy that. The sign that says, "Were your ears ringing? I was in therapy." That is such a good joke. I immediately was just like, I was like, SNL is just losing money if they aren't making some of these signs to sell online,
Oh, I bet you can get them at the NBC shop, I'm sure.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You stole my note. If there was something to knock it for, it would be that it didn't do anything that the first outing did. But when you realize, kind of like you said, this is a bag of gags, it doesn't have to go anywhere. The fun is in the reveal of the silly signs, and the writers are always going to be able to come up with some fun stuff for that. So it's an easy win. And actually, it's an honorary win because I know that this sketch is very close to Catherine's heart. So I feel, as the representative stand-in pinch-hitting host of the night, I have to at least acknowledge that this has to be an unqualified win, just purely in honor of Catherine.
This message has been approved by Catherine Coleman.
So, yeah, I think we covered that. Why don't we take a look at our next live sketch? Two kindred spirits share their folksy traumas during a Blue Bunny ice cream focus group. Patrick, start us off. What'd you think?
I have now watched this sketch 3 times. I laugh harder every time I watch it because I catch a new detail. So as I was saying earlier, this is a dig at Sam Elliott. This has to be a dig at Sam Elliott. So Sam Elliott, if you don't know, Power of the Dog came out back in November, December for the award season. Right before like the Oscars, Sam Elliott came out and said that's a piece of shit because it's just a sad gay cowboy. Everyone who was involved with the film had to be like, hey, that's your opinion, but your opinion's homophobic. Just heads up. So I really love that that he was just doing a Sam Elliott impression. And it was so funny. Just the idea that like it's a focus group, but here are two like old like country songs of a person kind of like describing it. I really feel what's that? Oh my God. It's Kenan Thompson's line of like after Sam Elliott goes into great detail about the, your brother playing in the fishing hole or whatever. And he just goes, I'm just tasting ice cream. And am I doing this wrong? Is so funny. But yeah, listen, Let Me Nap With Your Hurt is something I'll be thinking about forever. I really enjoyed the sketch.
Yeah. What do you think, Steve?
Oh, so good. So many great lines. I can't heal your pain, but I can give it a bed for the night. Right. all of this. Yeah. Just funny. These stoic rural personality types trying to review ice cream of all things. Like they really did a good job of like finding the best product, like the softest, like most non-rural thing you could think of, possibly. All these flavored ice creams. And they are like telling these stories that you would probably use to sell a pickup truck or a drill or something.
Yeah.
It's so great that they're so misplaced. And that fish out of water element is always a great direction to go.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Benedict was just like, yo, I've put in the work with the dialect coach. Let me bear some fruit from that. Can we do something with my new Southern accent? And I mean, let's just give Benedict props because like this entire episode, he is he's not playing the straight man. He's not playing the reactionary role.
Yeah.
He is the humor and heart of this episode.
Yeah.
Not to take away from Heidi, because Heidi was also quite amazing here. Another great element was the leaders, the organizers.
Oh yeah.
Who are facilitating, trying to paraphrase everything they say without all of that extra poetry. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, it tastes like your mother's bosom or whatever. Yeah, lots of great stuff.
Skippy's mom or something. Yeah.
I forget it, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think you guys are covering a lot of ground, so I don't want to just say the same stuff over and over again. Other than, I just think Heidi and Benedict's back and forth was just delightful to watch. It's always just charming and fun when there's a moment in a sketch where you clue in that this may be the first time in either of these people's lives when they've encountered someone that is on their wavelength, and they're being stoic. They're kind of trying to couch all of their emotions in these, like rural pastoral themes and statements to not really overplay their emotions. But you can just tell that immediately now there's so much simmering between them, and it's just an inevitable encounter that's gonna end with these star-crossed lovers finding each other. And it's just delightful to be able to pull that off in a live sketch and just be able to convey so much. If you watch what Heidi does very early on, you can see how understated and how much she's trying to like hold back and not give too many signals to him that he's laying down something she's picking up. And it's just this slow word dance that they do between each other. And as it unfolds, it's just so much fun to watch. And I don't know. I love that kind of writing. It's a lot of fun to watch and expertly performed. And high praise all around for this. This was a lot of fun. This to me was like the first real standout moment of the night. You know, we saw a retread sketch that was fun, but didn't break any new ground. This was one that caught me off guard. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's really good work. So high praise.
It did taste a little wet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Moving right along, we get our first pre-tape of the night. While admonishing her daughter, a mom conveniently sidesteps the truth of her own youthful indiscretions.
Admonishing. What a word.
Yeah.
What a big word.
Yeah, I subscribe to the Doc Emmett Brown School of Linguistic Jackassery, which states never use a 1-syllable word if you can use a 3-syllable word. So that's how I go about preparing my show notes. Regardless, Steve, I'm not gonna, I don't actually know if this was written by Streeter Seidel, but it lives in the same world as all the other Mother's Day sketches that we've seen. You know, mom gives birth and she's talking about how wonderful it was, but then we see the reality, and then, there've been a handful of other ones around different holidays. So my hunch is that this is a Streeter Seidel joint, but regardless, we know what we're in for. What did you think? Do you think that they scored another home run with these sentimental, back and forth kind of pre-tapes?
Yes, I'll try to answer that while my cat pushes my camera around.
Total pro, Steve.
You just
Total
stay
pro.
there, cat. So, yeah, I'm not sure who wrote it either, but it definitely was in the vein of these other sketches, shorts that we've come to love. Definitely welcome to go back to these. And I thought this was a great idea. I mean, of course, this is a thing. Of course, no mother is ever truly honest about how they were at that age. And I mean, they picked the perfect moment in a mother and daughter's relationship to highlight that. I thought it was a great idea to make this a fight while the daughter was grounded and having her, try to talk her way out of it. And every rebuttal that the mother has opens the door to show how she's a complete friggin' hypocrite.
Right.
But that's what you do. What are you going to do? Say, oh, that's okay.
Parenting
I
is
drank when I was your
95%
age.
hypocrisy.
Of course. You don't make your child comfortable with what they're doing. Mm-hmm. That's part of the reason it's so infrequent is that, you instill a bunch of shame on them, as is tradition. But yeah, this is a wonderful idea, and Cecily played it so well. I think she can play any age. She may not look 17 anymore, but she can certainly give off the energy of a 17-year-old. We've all met that drunk teenager in a field at that age, I'm sure. But yeah, it was cat. Oh my God.
Oh.
Well, anyway, I think I was done before I was rudely interrupted.
I think you're done, Steve. All right. What do you got, Pat?
Yeah, wrap it up. All right. Jesus Christ. I like these sketches. These are fun. These are so much fun. Mm-hmm. I wish that this one was a little different because I feel like they've done these beats before of like the wild mom and like she's drinking at the party and stuff. I really caught me off guard was she was yelling at her teenage daughter, her 17-year-old daughter, and her high school and college experiences were clearly the early 2000s. And I had a moment where I was like, that doesn't make sense. Why is it clearer than the 90s? And then when they did the grandmother in the 70s, I was like, what the f- are they talking about? And then I remembered I'm old. I'm an old man. And that makes sense how history works, like how time works. And that's why I hated this sketch. It reminded me I'm old and I will die. And And that's all. Yeah, that's honestly, it's the first time I watched the sketch the whole time, I was a little under the influence, and I spent the entirety of the sketch facing my own mortality instead of watching the sketch at hand. So I have now rewatched it. Great sketch, a lot of fun, but for making me remember that on Mother's Day I too will die. So.
Yeah, anytime Chumbawamba is the like vintage soundtrack, it's gonna invoke an existential crisis. Yeah, I'm right there with you. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. I'm not going to come down too hard on it for being yet another in a line of, because that's inevitable. They're trying to do a sentimental piece that talks about the reality of family dynamics,
and I feel like what you said before about the sign sketch about like these, it's not a character sketch. It's not like a place. Like this is kind of a sketch where like you can do the same sort of beats and they can still be different. So
it's a desk piece, essentially.
If you don't expect it to hit highs that the others didn't, or exceed the highs of the previous ones, then this was perfectly good. I like that they introduced like a third generation to sort of bring everything full circle with the mom when she was a kid, yelling at grandma, and then you see grandma at the David Bowie concert. That's fun. That's just enough to keep this fresh enough that these are still welcome. So I had fun with it. This was just more solid work from SNL. So far so good. Let's keep rolling here and take a look at our next live sketch. The members of a Georgia chain gang sing about their respective lots in life. Pat, kick this one off. What'd you think?
I didn't love this one. I didn't hate it. It definitely, I felt like, I don't know about if you guys, but I felt the pacing was off a little bit. Like it kind of meandered a bit. For me anyway. I feel like we didn't get to the game until about a minute in, which is a little slow. And I didn't hate anything about the sketch. I just thought it was meh. And that's not a bad thing. I again, like there have been episodes of SNL where what I think is the worst sketch of the night is maybe one of the worst sketch in decades. This was not that. This was very much kind of like it had funny moments, but as a whole, it's not a very memorable sketch.
Okay. Steve, you got anything to build on that?
Maybe I liked it slightly better. There's definitely something to be desired in how it was escalated. There was some attempt at escalating this, this better life he's carved out for himself by selling out his fellow inmates. The sleeping with the warden's wife was a strange turn, but I don't know. It was, I guess it was acceptable. It was just fun to hang with the boys and like hear them sing. Like that song was actually pretty catchy. I do love those kind of spiritual work tunes. And Benedict was great with the nonchalant just pie eating. The other inmates just seem to be a little too accepting of it. But I think if they didn't go back to that song, that chain gang song they were singing, like that's pretty much what it's written around, right? So you kind of got to do that. But it was kind of awkward and stilted, probably for that reason.
Yeah, if I had anything to say about this, I think it would just be that I thought the execution was really well, better than that statement. This is a musical piece, so timing, camera cuts, their own rhythm as they're doing the pounding all has to be on beat. They have to be in sync with each other. They have to be on key. They have to have one eye on the conductor who's trying to keep everyone in time off screen. And then, you've got the side players who are injecting their dialogue. So there's a lot going on here. And it's not rare to see these kind of sketches get a little bit messy on SNL. And that's part of the fun. When they break down a bit, you can enjoy that because sometimes it's inevitable. You can't help it. But when one really holds together and from start to finish is just very tight, it just, I don't know. It just feels like you've got a cast that is so comfortable with the mechanics of the show and just know how to tackle these sketches in a competent enough way that they can hold them together. And that's not an easy feat, even for people on the show. There's still a lot of moving pieces that you got to keep track of. So at a technical level, I was really impressed with how this came together. I did think it was kind of odd that they chose to make everyone kind of affable and comfortable with their respective lots in life. Like none of the guys are too concerned with the fact that he's selling them out. He's very cavalier and nonchalant about letting everyone know that he's not saying anything in coy terms that needs to be interpreted. He's just putting it all out there.
And they're literally repeating it back.
Right.
You know, I think that's such a good point, because I feel like that's what was missing for me, was there was no stakes. There's no stakes to this at all. You know?
Yeah.
And the fact that they continued to undercut it right to the end, where now even the warden, who you would expect would be like, I'll get you. You just expect there to be something else going on to create some tension or something.
They just kind of accepted it.
Yeah, without that, it's fun and there's a little bit of charm to it, but it's forgettable because there just really wasn't anything stronger as it's at its core. So yeah, this was not a highlight of the night, but still, I thought pretty darn competent for middle of the road fare.
Yeah. And it was very on beat, wasn't it? Like the conductor.
It was.
I guess there was a conductor.
Oh yeah. Anytime there's a musical cue in a live sketch, they have a dedicated conductor doing this to give everyone a sense of the rhythm and when they come in. So it's really quite neat.
Yeah.
All the pieces that they have to be tracking. What?
Arcade Fire should have used them.
Well, there you go. Yeah. All right. So speaking of Arcade Fire, this would be a great time to talk about our musical performances. Arcade Fire perform Unconditional 1, Look Out Kid. And then for their second number, The Lightning 1 and 2. And then for an added little treat, they do a portion of End of the Empire 1 through 4 during the good night. So we saw a lot of Arcade Fire. Steve, you're our resident musical dude. What'd you make of this?
Yeah. I don't know if I deserve that title.
It's not a very illustrious title. You're a resident musical dude. By default musical dude.
Yeah.
But you like Arcade Fire at least. You at least know the band.
I know them and I enjoy them when I hear them, but I don't listen to them actively. And I probably should, because they are a really great band. And I'm a Canadian, they're Canadian. It just makes sense on paper. For as many like musical elements they have with all the band members they have and all the things they're throwing into the loom of sound, if you will. You know, their songwriting is rather simple and very straightforward when you think about it. You know, the songwriting underneath is very approachable, and you know, they do add many elements in the arrangements and whatnot, and that really makes their signature sound. But you know, there's some really great songwriting here without having to go way too out there in, you know, trying new things when it comes to what people imagine when they think of music.
Sure.
When their energy goes up, when they speed up on that second song, you know, it was really hard not to tap along. You know, that was a really awesome rock out energy. It's like almost too fast. Like you're like, whoa. They take it up those extra couple of beats per minute in their tempo there that some other artists might not. And yeah, I think it really gives it an awesome sound and awesome energy. They are so fun to watch, and they clearly love doing what they do. Like everybody on stage just they seem like they're exactly where they want to be. So it's great to have them.
Very good.
Yeah.
Pat, you got anything to add?
Man, I love Arcade Fire. I haven't listened to them recently, but like in high school, they were like my favorite band for a while. Like Funeral, that album Funeral was like, I was obsessed with it. But I don't think I've heard them in a while. And this did something that I haven't done with an SNL musical guest in a while, is I actually downloaded the album that they were promoting. I went on my Apple Music and was like, all right, well, I'll listen to this. This is good background music to listen to when, you know, walking around or doing work and stuff. Good performances. a lot of them. I was surprised that they got an extra performance at the end. I wonder if they were just running short or whatever. But
it could have been, but a little bit of lore.
Yeah.
A previous time when they did SNL, they did, I want to say it was a premiere or a finale. I think it was a premiere.
It was a
and I think
premiere.
Tina Fey was hosting. And they stuck around to do an extra set for the in-studio audience after they went off the air. So that might just be a tradition where as friends of the show and with a history of doing an extra set for the in-house people, they just decided to do that again. That's my hunch, but I don't have any
they've done
insights on that.
SNL. They've done SNL at least a dozen times or something like crazy. Like
Yeah.
That. They're kind of, that's where I first heard them, was on SNL. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And again, I like their song. Like, it wasn't like they're playing another song. I was like, oh, great. This song also sounds pretty great. So
there was a really cool camera shot somewhere in there where I think there was a cameraman on stage with them.
It was a handheld, and he went in between the band, and he would do these zooms in on each person as he's turning.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a neat effect. And you got a bit of the audience, so you're seeing what Arcade Fire sees. That was probably the most interesting production element of it. The other production elements, I would say, are questionable at best, like using the wacky wiggle inflatable man.
That was fun.
Sure, it's fun.
That was stupid, but it was fun.
Well, that's what I mean.
Bought a used car right after because of those
exactly.
things.
It's an interesting choice. It's not something we've seen on SNL, so props for that. But also to put them in front of the band to the point where it's actually kind of obscuring them in a lot of shots. I was just, maybe it ties into their tour or their album or something. But it had me scratching my head like, oh, well, that's just not something you see every day.
Especially
for
their
extra second number,
they added to it.
Yeah, for their second number, they just draped a bed sheet behind them. So, they ran the gamut when it came to production stuff. My hot take is they started playing, and I said, "Yep, that sounds like Arcade Fire." That is all I got.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
It definitely did. It definitely sounded like Arcade Fire.
All right. Let's take a look at Weekend Update. For their lead-in, Jost and Che discussed the Supreme Court's leak decision regarding Roe v. Wade. Okay, Patrick, what did you make of Jost and Che's opening salvo?
Good week. Strong week. Quality jokes. The audience was on board for this, for a majority of the jokes. I mean, I feel like this was just a very well-written week, which was the one that I liked the most. Oh, man. Che's, I went around the office asking women what they thought about abortions. And, I learned a lot from the HR meeting. That's a great, just wonderful joke. I really enjoyed it. I feel like, there wasn't a joke that I feel like most Weekend Update weeks we get a joke that's like a groaner or, just falls flat. I felt like this was a strong outing, altogether. So yeah, a good update.
Good. Steve, what'd you think?
It made me realize the timing of this episode on this occasion with Roe versus Wade being what's in the news cycle right now. Really lightning in a bottle. I mean, a rare occurrence that invites certain jokes that just wouldn't work without this perfect lineup. It's Mother's Day, whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Like you could never make that joke unless you had this perfect set of circumstances. And it led to a really great Weekend Update. You mentioned a really great joke there with the HR. We had the leak of their opinion and that being a small mistake that they have to live with. Really good stuff, using their own ammunition against them. It's a, really great stance for a comedy show to take. And lots of other great things, I think I'm going to start calling Giuliani Rumpelstiltskin from now on. That's a perfect name for him. Conjures up the exact things I feel about that guy. And it was just so much fun to be had here. A very, very enjoyable Weekend Update.
Okay. Now, if we hadn't at this point had enough topical stuff about Roe v. Wade. For our first feature, we get Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett stopping by to discuss doing your 9 and popping it. All right, Steve. So you felt Jost and Shay were able to make hay with the topic of the week. Do you feel like Kate McKinnon was able to?
Oh, for sure. I just love the angle they took here because I always feel like, these right-wing figures, they always try to downplay, the problems that their ideas and what they think should be happening, what they would cause, basically. Uh, just do your 9. All this adoption rhetoric and stuff is, okay. What about the strain it puts on the system? Don't worry about it. Give it to the Jungle Book people.
Yeah. Give it to the lesbians.
Yeah.
Lesbians, you're gonna love me. I'm giving you so many babies. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I love it. It just it does that. It shows, just how much they misunderstand the way that people on the left think. Why aren't you liking this? You should like this, you lesbians. Much great stuff here. And the characterization that Kate has here is great. Like, she makes her so toothless. It almost does the real Amy Coney Barrett a favor because you feel like this version of her doesn't even realize how destructive and evil what she's saying is. Like, this is a version that truly believes what she's saying when the real one is just trying to, silence women for for the man, basically. It was, other than that, it was a fun outing, and Kate really nailed it. You can sometimes complain about Kate's characters feeling too similar, especially when she's rolled out to the Weekend Update desk week after week. And it's like, okay, well, she only has so many tricks in her bag, but I feel like she's zoomed into something that was not as regularly tapped into. So it was nice to see something generally fresh from Kate.
Okay. What do you think, Pat?
I think Steve, you hit it on the head for me, where I felt like she was a little too toothless. She was a little too friendly, where I feel like she's a real issue in the world. She's a real problem. And exactly that, of just like, we could say like, oh, she really wants the best, but in reality, she's just an evil psychopath.
Yeah.
She's just part of the machine. I liked it. I thought it was very funny. I did like the this is how the left thinks. Why don't you like this? That is very very good. And then of course we have the beef. What a way to end. I love when everyone of the show knows we don't know how to end this. Say something silly. And that's what happened there. And but yeah, overall it wasn't, it's not a character I hope I have to see again. I'll say that, But, yeah.
Fair enough. I was not super hot on this for a couple of reasons. First off, I am not as in love with SNL's partisanship as some. If you're very passionate about a certain issue that aligns with the show's values and they decide they're going to rail against it, then the show's going to get a lot of goodwill and clapter because there's an agreement with a lot of the audience. So I feel like some of these pieces exist, and Steve, you've been doing this cast long enough to know what I'm about to say. The political messaging and the activism is the primary purpose, and the comedy comes second. And I feel like on a week like this, I understand how we get to this point where half the show is that particular topic. But it's not ideally what I want to see in the show. I want the show to comment on politics or social issues when they've got a really laser sharp focus on something and can really do justice to it. And I felt like Amy Coney Barrett as a caricature, it didn't have much bite or much personality. We've seen Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We've seen Kate bring stuff to the desk that is potent just as comedy. And then it becomes genius because it's so potent as comedy. She can turn the comedy to make points that are smarter than they should be. And what you end up with is a really inspired piece that says something important and at the same time delights with how comedically strong it is. I don't feel like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Just to your point, John, I just want to say they did this weeks ago with Cecily and the clown.
Yes.
And to your point, which is like, you can, because I think that's exactly, you hit the nail on the head, which this kind of felt like a very kind of late, I don't want to say lazy, but like kind of like a easy, let's just do her, where she's not really in the public eye enough for like to be a caricature.
Right.
And then they did the clown with Cecily, and that was brilliant, just brilliant. And it had the comedy there, but also had a very, 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 very real message, and it came from a place of honesty.
Sure.
And yeah, this was, I mean, she ended with "We have the beef" because why
they
not?
Just didn't have anything better to. Yeah. So where we're at with the show right now is they got to go in hard right from the cold open on this and say a lot of the things that the show wanted to say, and even end with giving Kate a moment to effectively break character and say, we're going to keep fighting, right? Like, they gave Kate a moment to say, look, beyond just sketch comedy, I have passion for this and I'm expressing that. We already got it right in the cold open. And my hope after the cold open was, okay, great. We reset the deck. Now the show isn't burdened with having to comment on this in every sketch. Yeah. I knew we were going to see it in Weekend Update, and I figured the most appropriate place for more discussion of this is Jost and Che, and we got that too. And what I was thinking was, okay, great. You gave us another like 1-2 punch with Jost and Che. Now let's again clear the air, because we've had another chance to say what we want to say. Give us something goofy and fun and offbeat that is a little bit of respite from the drama of the week, because whether we're in agreement with what the show's saying or not, we've all heard for the last 7 news cycles nothing but this topic. Sometimes SNL has to play the role of fun diversion at the end of a long hard week. And I feel like the features on Update after Jost and Che have already been very political about it is a great opportunity for them to give us something goofy and charming and just get us back away from the social commentary. And that's John, what I would have wanted.
John, I disagree a little bit with you, because I do feel like it was important to have the desk character address it. My issue was you had the cold open, which was a very clever take on it. And then you had the Jost and Che directly talking about it. And I feel like we needed a metaphor. We needed a character metaphor. We needed something where, like, closer to the clown bit from a few weeks ago, where it's here is, or even if it was just Kate came out herself, or a different character came out herself, and it was, we can kind of like how how it's just a Pete Davidson's going to do a set on the desk bit about like something. I felt it would have been more effective than kind of like a very dry version of someone's famous name, because I don't know if that's a good impression of Amy Coney Barrett, because I don't know what she sounds and talks like.
Right.
I've only seen pictures of her and then read shit she has said. So it's not a strong enough political character to wrap this bit on. And I agree. I felt not where I'm like, hey, I don't want to hear any of this. I want to laugh. I'm like, I want to laugh, but I want you guys to be clever with it, because you were already clever with it. You were clever with it earlier in the night. That it was a letdown that this is what you went with,
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. If they'd had something really inspired it was on this topic, I would have applauded it. The problem was, it seems like they didn't have anything great to provide what you would have liked to put a bow on the whole topic. And because they didn't have anything really great for that, I feel like the right move would have been to pivot. If you've got it, if you've got a character like Ruth Bader Ginsburg or someone, and you know that you can score a great comedy win and put a bow on the topic, go for it. That's going to be strong. But to put it in there just because you feel like you got to have more to say, to me, at a certain point, you're beating a dead horse. I want some comedy too. So that's where I would have said, look, if you could bring the heat, bring the heat. If you don't have it, I know that there have been some great desk pieces that have been cut this season that could very easily be repurposed. And we have some great featured players that have a lot of fantastic bits that you could spin up. There were other places they could have gone once they realized, oh, well, we don't really have much else that we can offer. That's more of my contention. Not that you can't comment on it. I wanted something inspired, or let's go in another direction.
You could have had the trendsetter show up. You could have had honestly, I would have loved Bowen and 80 show up, and then maybe even 80 pushing Bowen out of the way to talk directly to the camera and be like, "This is a woman's," like that would have been great. But I agree. It just kind of fell flat.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
In other words, basically, Kate, put away your piano.
Yeah. The show does a lot to indulge Kate, and sometimes it plays and sometimes it's a little lackluster.
This message is not approved by Catherine Coleman.
But we got a lot more show to roll through, so why don't we talk about the back half of the show?
Yes.
We get a live sketch. On Lansdowne House, hilarity ensues when the lady of the house has one of her tiny spells. All right, Patrick, kick us off. What do you think?
First off, any physical comedy is going to get me. I'm a dumb boy. Sure. I'm a stupid little man. If you fall down, great. This is so much fun. I had so much fun with it. Again, this is something where it's in like Benedict Cumberbatch's wheelhouse. This is something he is very good at. And Cecily Cecily doesn't get enough credit for her physical comedy. And she's such a good physical comedian. Like this was, not as crazy, but like as silly as kind of like a Gilda Radner throwing herself against a wall, breaking ribs. Like I love that. I feel like the unsung hero of this sketch is Mikey Day. Mikey Day's asides of "I'm also good, thank you," and then when Benedict Cumberbatch is chasing him around to hit the soup, he's like, "Please no, sir, please don't do this." That it's really good. I've had a spell. I'm gonna use that in real life. Great, fun, funny sketch. Yeah.
What do you think, Steve?
I thought it was great. Definitely something for the physical comedy fans. And I just laugh at the absurdity of it because, if you are one to get the fits or whatever you want to call it, there's going to be some damage done to the furniture, the knickknacks, the ornaments, but like it's meant to be incidental, right? Like it just happens to be in the way. So being so deliberate with the destruction is just so funny to me that she's like literally like knocking each cup off of the mantle. Just making a meal of it. You're like, okay, like you just are going out of your way to break things. And other characters are pointing it out, which I don't know if it needed, but that's it was very absurd to watch. I agree with Mikey being a big part of what's funny about this. Side note, if you pay attention to the first tray he brings out, you'll notice that they forgot to take off the price tag sticker from the bottom. And I'm no historian, but I don't think they had barcodes in 1916. So a little bit of an anachronism there.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Yeah, this was fun. This was goofy. Not much else to say on it. I was dialed in on Benedict's performance because he seemed particularly at ease in knowing how to carry a British comedic sensibility.
Yeah.
There were just some of his like guffaws and looks and reactions and just some of the ways that he was carrying himself that felt very appropriately British. There was almost something John Cleese-esque at moments.
I love the thing that he keeps. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
No, I love that he kept going back to. She missed the couch again. We bought the fainting couch. That was such a little fun aside.
He just felt very at ease in this character, and you could tell that he knew exactly how to dial in and play this character. Not that, it's a particularly deep character, but nonetheless, it was fun. I like that after they make it absolutely clear that there's nothing that's going to stop these fits from ending up causing Mikey Day trauma. they do this thing where Benedict Cumberbatch is having his spell and he's spinning around Mikey Day and you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, is it going to be now? Is it going to be now? Is it going to be now? And he like stops and steadies himself before he actually has like the death blow on Mikey Day and sends the soup flying. And it just telegraphs how obviously not organic these fits are. And that just, it just makes the comedy a little bit better. So I just like that. When they have enough time to make sure that they're punctuating the physical comedy with a little bit of added context and just like selling it a little bit more. I don't know. I like that. So this worked well for me.
I will say I love that you brought up John Cleese, because one of my notes, what I remember is what I wrote down was Benedict's string bean kind of legs, kind of like fallback, was very reminiscent of like John Cleese in Fawlty Towers. Like anytime you would have to just kind of like a whoa, like that whole. It was a bit of a surprise to see how physical he can get. I thought that was he was very funny. He was very good in the role.
Well, you were wondering if we were going to have good chemistry here, Patrick. We are like simpatico. We are on the same wavelength. John Cleese references. Yeah. All right. So I think we're off to a good start for the back half of the show. Let's talk about our pre-tape here. The Recline from Kohler is the world's first toilet that brings laid-back, casual comfort to the bathroom. Steve, this is a follow-up. Last time Benedict Cumberbatch was on, they did a Kohler ad, but it was like Big Brother 1984.
Yeah.
And now they're doing like Dead Poets Society sort of thing. But
they were harping on that Apple ad, right?
Right, because you've never seen the Apple ad. We've been doing this cast for way too long. But what'd you make of this one for our second outing with the Kohler novelty toilets?
Oh, man. The setup was a little reminiscent of like Mr. Bunting?
Farewell, Mr. Bunting.
Farewell, Mr. Bunting.
Yeah, because there was a Dead Poets angle to the classroom.
Yeah. But it sets it up well, Benedict was looking cool as hell. They really nailed the aesthetic they wanted for Benedict.
Yeah.
I think they made him, as cool as he could possibly look in that moment when he, undoes his belt and drops his pants. It breaks it so well to dress him up so well and then have him just drop his pants below his knees. Nobody looks cool doing that. And the fact that they're playing it so straight works so well. And the sound design, like they have like gung cocking sounds when he's like undoing his belt.
Yeah.
So cringy. And then like, what is he having? Like a scotch on that thing while he's reclined? Like, when they weren't showing his bare legs, he actually still looked pretty cool on that toilet. So yeah, the all of the filmmaking elements that went into selling this style worked really well for me. But yeah, it's so absurd, the thought that I don't know. If I could get in that position, I don't know how well I would perform on the toilet. I feel like it would just close everything up and I'd be there. I'd be comfortable, but I wouldn't be going anywhere for a while.
Yeah, let's dig deeper on this. That's definitely the visual we want to be putting in our audience's mind.
Yeah, I want this more than anything. I've never.
If you're not thinking about this already, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, this is all I want. I want this product. I want it to be real. I want it so bad. I really love the idea. I think it's a funny bit, but more realistically, I think it's a product I would buy. What idiot would buy this? Me. The second I saw this, I was like, man, take notes, everybody, because this should be. I don't want flying cars. I don't want to teleport. I want to recline while I poo, and just it. Oh man, it looks so comfortable to me. I could squeeze one out in any position. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I wish I had a brilliant take on this. It was fun. Just the thought that Benedict Cumberbatch could be dropping a deuce in all those like awesome hero poses. It's just a funny. It's just at its core a funny idea. And so when you take SNL's production budget and a kick-ass director and you just mix them all together, they can take a funny idea like that and they can just really bring it home. And yeah, I had fun with this. I thought this was really, really good. But obviously, what everyone's been waiting for is our analysis of the Chuck E. Cheese sketch. So why don't we just roll right on? Because at Chuck E. Cheese, 80s British band Reflection Denied sub in for Chucky and the Pizza Time Band. Okay, Steve, you are a de facto music monkey. What did you make of this sketch?
Oh man, so great. I love the little story beat where like this is all happening because the guy in charge of, the entertainment happens to like this kind of music. But man, the real praise is, that should be going to whoever wrote and produced this song, because I don't know what you call this genre, like gothic new wave or something, but I've heard this song and I've heard people who like actually do this music as their job. This is on level with that, and it's so great. Like all day today, I've been deliver me. Oh man. And how well did Benedict and Bowen sell this? Like,
right?
Yeah, especially Benedict. Like,
who knew he can sing so well? He's such a good singer.
He's a
his falsetto was on point. Yeah.
Yeah, he's oh my God.
Yeah, but it was just like a great opportunity to ham it up, and no punches were pulled, all the stops were pulled out. This was great. Lots of little things for other cast members to do. I loved Melissa's character.
Mm-hmm.
She really seemed to have fun there, especially at the end. We'll just watch her dancing at the end. My eye was drawn to her there. Keenan's bit was great. Everybody. And I think I was definitely on board. What really sold me was when Bowen referred to Chuck E. Cheese in such a proper form, calling him Charles Entertainment Cheese.
That is his name. That is his legal name.
It's legal. It's on his birth certificate.
It is. It's if you go to the Chuck E. Cheese website, they just go, well, Charles Entertainment Cheese are known as Chuck E. Cheese. So it's a great joke for the true Chuck E. Cheese fans out there.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I feel like I've contributed everything of value I can contribute to that sketch. Let's talk about Chloe Fineman as SNL's official understudy with a cameo from Elizabeth Olsen. Pat?
Ooh, this was a cute sketch. Wasn't it so cute? Mm-hmm. I the entire time was like, oh, first off, like Chloe, I think it's fun to see Chloe do impressions of other cast members. And I enjoyed when she did Kate a little more, simply because you could tell that they went off script and they just kind of played around a little bit.
Yeah. They locked down the camera. They said, have fun for 10 minutes and then we'll figure out what we can do with it.
Basically, it was
kind of like this podcast.
Yeah. It was so much fun to see them play off each other. Like she does impressions she's so incredible at these impressions. And I really enjoyed everything. I thought the Benedict Cumberbatch and the Elizabeth Olsen impression was so good. Her coming in and then Benedict Cumberbatch doing the multiverse is real. So silly. So silly. Had a fun. Also, Chloe Fineman as Scarlet Witch, he looks fantastic. I think Chloe Fineman, it gave me a realization that like one day we all will be part of the Marvel Universe. We understand that. That's how this world works. Like you and me will all somehow be connected and be part of the Marvel Universe. Chloe Fineman should definitely be in the Marvel Universe. She just looks like a superhero. Like in the Scarlet Witch suit, I was immediately like, oh man, she could pull it off. She's fantastic. Fun sketch. Fun. It was cute. I liked it. Just let her do all of SNL. I would watch that if she's every character.
Okay. High praise for Chloe Fineman. Steve?
Thought it was lovely. Absolutely. The highlights were definitely Kate's impression, but also Cecily's. I think my favorite part was the Cecily impression. It was amazingly astute. I think a good impression makes you realize certain quirks and little pieces of their persona that it's just gone undetected in a conscious level. Like subconsciously you knew it was there, but you just had to hear an impression that underlines it for you to go, oh yeah, that is totally them. And I feel like, Cecily, especially that one, that's what happened for me. So as if I needed more evidence that Chloe is really good at what she does. Yeah, maybe not so consistent. Like they even made a joke about how she didn't really have a Heidi impression.
Right.
Melissa's could have been better. I also felt
I thought she got Melissa's voice down perfectly though. I feel like maybe like she didn't get the physicality down as well, but vocally she got Melissa down freaking really well, I think.
Yeah, but Steve is a hardcore Melissa monster. Like there's something about Melissa's voice that sets his heart aflutter. So if anyone was going to be uber critical of a Melissa impression, it would be Steve.
For sure. I also felt bad for Melissa having to be in this sketch, formerly being the go-to impressionist until Chloe came along, and then she has to sit there like,
thanks, pal.
I hate you. Yeah, thanks, pal. They don't seem as close as maybe Kate and Chloe. But yeah, like I get it. For Melissa to sit there and be like, hey, part of this sketch where you're the impressionist now. But hey, I'd say Chloe's impression of an impressionist was impressive. Yeah, let's not get too negative about this. This was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was honestly just a cute sketch all around. It's hard to like look at this under a microscope and go like, oh well, this and this. Where at the end of the day, this is just like a very sweet, charming sketch,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oui.
No, it was a good moment for Chloe. She continues to show that she's the whole package with SNL. And, as much as it may seem a little weird to see the junior cast upstaging the senior cast a little bit, it does seem like everyone was, game or at least putting on a good face. I enjoyed this. I thought this was really strong work from Chloe. When she did her Cecily impression, she starts doing it. I'm like, that's not what Cecily sounds like. And then Cecily says the next line. And I'm like, oh, that is exactly what Cecily sounds like. Like you said, Steve, you don't really understand the vocal nuance, like the little quirks until someone exaggerates them just enough that when you hear them right next to the real thing, you're like, oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, there were some little moments of brilliance like that in it, and all around pretty strong, simple, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good way to round out the night. Well, that is the rundown. Let's talk about our ratings and reviews. Moment of the night. Steve, what do you got?
Oh boy. That is pretty tough. This is one of those episodes where it's like moment after moment. My moment was probably like we were just talking about. I think Chloe's impression of Cecily was a pretty wide-eyed moment for me. A Kate impression, it's impressive, but you kind of see you can clearly see the path to a Kate impression. I feel like, obviously I've never heard a Cecily impression before. And I was just so surprised at, what she utilized to make that work. And it was it's kind of like a shift in my brain almost. So yeah, it was a very, very interesting way to like use a tool. Like obviously you would use your impressions for celebrities, political figures, and turning it inwards on the casts. Was such a fun experience. And I think Cecily's in particular was the one that really, really showed me how fun this could be. So I think that's my moment.
Very good. What do you got, Pat?
My moment of the night was just a simple line. Let me nap with your hurt.
So good.
I feel like that they had so many wonderful sayings in that sketch, but let me nap with your hurt. It's so ridiculous. Like it makes sense to me though. Like I understand what they are saying.
Sure.
but it's so crazy. Like, it's such a crazy thing. It's such a silly, funny thing. So yeah, Let Me Nap With Your Hurt is definitely my moment of the night for me.
Very good. I'm in total agreement with Steve on this one. I think that Chloe impression sketch was a lot of fun, but she'd already scored a couple wins, and then they get to Cecily, and you're like, man, that's sharp. And it was just that moment where I raise an eyebrow and I go, oh, she's really good. Like usually every episode has one or two moments where you see a little performance beat that you go, oh yeah, that's why they hired these people. Cause they really can deliver when they need to. And yeah, so that definitely stood out as my moment. Best sketch overall. What do you got, Pat?
Best sketch for me. This was a tough one because I felt like there were some really good sketches this week. But honestly, man, the Longs Downhouse sketch,
Okay.
the physical comedy.
I love a good
sketch.
pratfall. Yep.
I love a good pratfall, and I really enjoy just Cecily Strong, who spoiler alert, maybe she'll come up in a second. I think she's so incredible at physical comedy. When they really let her go, it is just it's a master. You're watching a master at work, And that whole sketch, I was dying the entire time. I loved it. I really loved how it's one of those things where it's like, it's how do we go? How do we end the sketch? Everyone just dance in a circle. Dance in a circle. We good.
That's what they do in
Yeah.
jolly old England.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what do you got, Steve? Best sketch.
Oh, it is tough, but I gotta go with Reflection Denied, filling in for the Chuck E. Cheese band.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we have the songwriting that works so well. Like that song that was produced was just not only accurate, but friggin' hilarious in its own right. And then all the characterizations they came up with, that was some great stuff.
I'm going with Blue Bunny Ice Cream Focus Group. I like I like the peas in the pod thing. I liked the caliber of the acting where so much had to be said without being said. They're couching everything in these dramatic terms and being very reserved, but at the same time, something smoldering. It's just, there was a lot of performance on display there. And then of course, just the awkwardness of everyone around them that, points out just how bizarre this whole situation is. It just makes for a really fun ride. And I thought Heidi turned in a great performance. It was, I think, standout work for Benedict Cumberbatch. So I think all the elements were there for a great sketch. Moving right along, MVP. Steve?
It's our BC, Benny Cumby. He's got it for me. Like I was saying earlier, he was the humor of most, or if not all, these sketches.
Yeah,
he was not put on. They weren't coming up with excuses to have him on screen like some hosts.
Right. There was very little hand holding. There was confidence in how they used it.
Yeah,
for sure.
This was the Benedict Cumberbatch show. It was like watching Bizarre with John Viner. This was John Viner. Or is it Viner? I can't remember. But it's, he was truly leading the sketch show and being the lead of the sketches. And you could tell they had no fear in giving him a big, a big bite out of the pie.
Yeah, I was surprised that this was only his second time, with how incredibly well he held himself the entire show and the quality of his performance. I was genuinely like, oh, I can't believe this is only number 2 for him, because I swear I've seen him in this two or three times before this. So yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah. So is he officially your MVP?
No. Okay. How dare you?
All right.
No,
you were just backing up Steve.
I was just backing up Steve. Mine is Cecily Strong.
Sure.
For 2 reasons. One, again, it's she's so good in the flashback sketch with the pre-tape with the mother. She's so good playing, an older mother and then a teenager, and like being the same character, and it felt like the same character still. And the other one is just like, man, the pratfalls in that one sketch are genius. Like it's such good physical comedy. Like she really is a master. I hope that every once in a while, like I feel like every 4 or 5 episodes, she does a physical comedy bit. And I'm reminded how incredibly talented she is as just a comedian. Like she's really, really like, it's SNL. You expect everyone on SNL to be the best of the best. And I'm always blown away where even knowing that this is someone who's top tier comedy, how funny she is in that sketch.
Fair enough.
I may be a Melissa Monster, but Patrick is clearly a Cecily up Cecily.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
That landed way better than I thought that was going to land. Good,
Yeah,
good
I know.
on you, Steve.
Yeah,
if it was just John here, he'd just be like, another thing to cut.
No, you can't cut that. I'm going to bring it back for the rest of the episode. Cecily
it's
of
all
Cecily.
good.
I'm going to get a shirt.
Good.
I'm going to get a shirt that says it. I'm going to make a shirt. Steve, I'm going to make you a shirt that says Melissa Monster, and I'm going to make a shirt that says, yeah, and I'll send it to you. This will be fun for us. Yeah.
We'll wear it next time we're doing one together.
Yeah. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, that got way more exciting than I thought that was going to get.
This is why Patrick tests so well, John.
That's true. I agree with both you guys. I think that those are the two contenders. And whoever I picked, I was going to give an honorable mention to the other. So I'm glad that they both got some love. I'm going to err on the side of Cecily. I think that she was all over this show, did some really great work. And she's late enough into her contract that we're probably not going to see that much more of her. And it's just nice to see that she's still kind of dominating and she's still just showing why she deserved to be on the show and just continuing to turn in quality work. This was just another good night for Cecily. And just happy to throw an MVP her way.
I am glad she made the last minute decision to do this season. I know it was like a couple of weeks leading up. So it's amazing how close we came to not getting stuff like we saw in this episode.
Yeah. She definitely can hold her own at the show. Now, big question. On a scale of classic, great, decent, weak, or train wreck, how would you rate this episode, Pat?
I would give this a decent. I don't think it was great. I don't think there was anything this week that was that failed and was just a bad sketch, that bombed. But I don't think there was anything here that was great. There wasn't anything where I was like, oh, that's like sketch of the season for me.
Right.
It was very much a run-of-the-mill episode where I was having fun. I enjoyed it. I felt everyone played to their strengths. And honestly, I felt like the cold open was such a great surprise that it kind of just put me in such a good mood for the rest of the show. So it shows how important a cold open is to an episode of SNL, because it really does set the tone for how the night's going to be. So, Steve?
Yeah. What do you got, Steve?
I'm going up a notch.
Okay. It's a great from Steve.
And you know what? There was very few things keeping me from giving it a classic. Some more reasonable, some more shallow. Like, I feel like if this was the first time we saw the brilliance of the household sign art sketch or the flashback showing the reality of motherhood without all the rose-colored glasses, if those were the first time we saw those ideas, I'd be like, my God, the brilliance of this episode. But yeah, it's it changes things when it's a recurrence. It's like, okay, You've already had that brilliant idea, you're just bringing it back. But yeah, like all these ideas were great. There's a reason they were brought back, because they're great.
Fair enough. So on a scale of classic, great, decent, weak, or train wreck, I would rate this one competent.
Yeah, that's a good
decent.
note.
Yeah. Does anyone remember a single flubbed line or missed cue or bad camera cut? Like, was there anything about this show that like you're watching and like, oh yeah, this is live TV? Or did it just play like these are pros just doing their thing?
You're forgetting the glaring example. in
What?
Arcade Fire's third song.
Oh,
where
well,
he
okay.
got the wrong key and then he forgot
Yeah.
to count them in. So he started without them when he finally did get the key.
Sure.
It took like 3 attempts to start the song, basically.
Yeah. So aside from that, which I don't lay that at the feet of the show, like uh, uh, for everything that is controllable with the show, we have a fairly new director stepping in, at the back half of the season. And you would think that you would see maybe a bit more shakiness as they're passing that torch.
Yeah.
But everything felt really solid. The writing, like you said, Pat, there were no high highs, but there were no low lows. This was right down the middle. There was enough fun fare, maybe not inventive or new fare, but enough fun fare that this was an enjoyable watch. I'm not big on the amount of social commentary that they opted to go with. I understand why they did. That's not what makes a great show for me. But I admit that, Update was solid regardless of what they were talking about. Like they were definitely doing their job. And the cold open was as inspired as you were going to get. So even if it was more than I wanted topic wise, I can't say that there was anything quality wise that was really lacking. So competent right down the middle. I think that this was a decent, without that being a dirty word. I think this was just solid SNL.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
All
not a
right.
dirty word.
Okay. So we'll leave it at that. Now, Pat, tell us what you're up to.
Oh man, I've got some fun stuff coming up. I just was reminded at the beginning of this episode, starting this week on my YouTube channel, I'll be having one of those YouTube short shows. My buddy Kevin Frolix and I, who are Kevin and Pat, is New York's second most popular comedy duo. We are going to be premiering. Well, we haven't premiered. We'll be putting up on YouTube our Unsung Heroes of SNL, which are our little clippets that's a minute long where we just talk about cast members and sketches that we love. And that's premiering this week on my YouTube channel. You search Not Pat Riley on YouTube, you'll find it. And then I have a new comic book coming out. It's a little zine called A Bear Climbs a Mountain on Webtoons. Also just search Not Pat Riley and you'll find it.
Very good.
Cool. I love zines.
Steve, are you chasing any creative muses right now that you'd want people to check out? What are you up to? Are you just knee deep in CBC stuff?
Knee deep in CBC stuff. There is something that I'm working on, but it's way too early to talk about because I'll probably jinx it now.
Oh, okay. Fancy.
Stay tuned.
We'll save that for another day then.
Yes.
All right. Well, Patrick, it's lovely that we could have you up. I enjoyed this thoroughly. I don't know if you're as into me as I am to you, but I really enjoyed this conversation.
John, you were fantastic. I felt you from all the way in Canada, which I assume is 16 mooses tied to a maple tree, of course. And your beautiful PM is just standing shirtless on a mountain over a waterfall, because that's what I think of when I think Canada. Though every time I go to Toronto, I'm reminded it's mostly suburbs.
Yeah.
Those are all
surprisingly
the
fast for my igloo.
Yeah.
Regardless of all that Canadian racism that you just threw my way, I thoroughly enjoyed having you up. So thank you so very much. And Steve, you were also here, so that's a thing.
I am here.
Steve's the best. You can't talk to a Melissa Mosser like that. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'll sick my Cecily Obsessilies on you.
Yeah.
Here he comes.
Steve, lovely as always. The next time we talk, it very well may be in person. I don't know if we're going to do anything for the patrons or something, but after 6+ years of doing this show, we may actually meet for the very first time, which I don't know. I think that that's momentous. If anyone, has been with us from the beginning, I feel like they would appreciate that this might actually happen. We're gonna cross the line from casual work acquaintances to, I'm assuming, BFF.
Oh, sure.
But nonetheless, we will sort all that out when I travel to Newfoundland and look you up.
Yes. We'll see if you really are more handsome in person, like you always tell me before we start.
We'll let your mom be the deciding vote on that one.
A yo mama on Mother's Day. Very tasteless, John.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's me in a nutshell. All right. Why don't we put this out of its misery? Because I think we're going off the rails here. All right. Thanks so much, guys. And that's a cast. Thanks to Steve Finn and Pat Riley. And thanks as well to our most generous patrons, Neil Weinstein, Justin Gardner, Grace Kogan, and Brian Clark. If you're enjoying our show, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever better podcasts can be found. Your subscription helps us grow, and your support is greatly appreciated. We'll be back in 1 week when SNL returns with host Selena Gomez and musical guest Post Malone. Until then, this has been episode number 160 of the Saturday Night Live Afterparty podcast. I'm John Murray. Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.